Is JJ there?
He is.
All right. Paulie wants to play the JJ Redick game. What's JJ stand for?
Yes.
So before we go to him, Paulie?
Yeah, so Dan, JJ Redick, everyone knows him, but we've never asked him what JJ stands for.
Okay.
I'm going to go around the room. Dan, you're going to go last.
Okay.
What does JJ stand for?
All right, Todd?
Jimmy John.
Jimmy John.
Like the sandwich place.
No, I got it.
Okay.
Knucklehead. Seaton.
Jonathan James.
Jonathan James. All right, Marvin?
I was going to say Jonathan Jr.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's where I'm going. All right, Paulie? Oh, you already know it. I'm going to go James Jr.
James
Redick.
Jr. is good.
I'm going to give you a hint. The middle name doesn't start with J.
Which works well for the junior idea.
Let's bring in JJ Redick. What's the JJ stand for?
Well, it actually doesn't stand for anything. It's a nickname. So I have older twin sisters. My name is Jonathan Clay Redick, and when I was a baby, my dad called me Jay for short. And my older twin sisters are about 5 years older. They said everything at the same time as kids. So people would ask what my name was, and they'd say Jay. Hey, Jay, Jay. Go get Jay. Literally, my first memories, like everybody else, are at 3-4 years old, and I was always JJ, and it's because of them.
Well, it does help that you had an unbelievable J when you played as well. I mean, imagine if you couldn't shoot.
The real hint on this, though, for all the Jonathan James speculators, is that there's no periods in my name. It's just two J's. There's no J period. It's just two J's.
JJ joining us on behalf of DraftKings. This is the only reason why we wanted him on, just so we could clear up the JJ. New customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Did you ever have a moment like LeBron had with Ime Udoka the other night where the coach is saying something to you in colorful language?
I want to know kind of, because I think last time I was on the show, I dropped an F-bomb.
Yes, you
so
did.
I want to be very careful of my language
Well,
here.
just use F-bomb. Just don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was playing with the Clippers, and we were in Minnesota, and Flip Saunders was the coach. Rest in peace. Flip was a great guy. Little backstory. In 2013 in free agency, I had verbally committed to Minnesota, and my agents were going back and forth with Flip on some like trade kickers and a player option on the fourth year. And in the meantime, the Clippers kind of came in, and Doc said, we're going to trade Bledsoe. We got a sign and trade scenario where we can get you. So I had this hour waiting period where I was waiting for Donald Sterling to approve this deal. And Flip he's like, screw this guy. I'm taking the deal off the table. 5 minutes later, Kevin Martin signs for my contract. So I ended up going with LA. 2 years later, we're playing in Minnesota, and there's a foul. We're on a fast break. There's a foul right in front of their bench. And Flip walks out onto the court. He's damn near at the free throw line. And I turned to Josh Tiven, who was also the referee that threw me out when I spun the ball to him. But I turned to Josh Tiven and I said, get this motherfucker off the court. And Flip just goes ballistic on me. He starts calling me every name in the book. I'm not backing down. So then I start cussing at him. So Josh tees us both up, and we're then shooting free throws. I'm at the I'm not shooting, but I'm like at the block or whatever, offensive spot on the free throw line. And I'm yelling at Josh. I'm like, Josh, I'm going to get my money back for that one. That was uncalled for. That was uncalled for. And then Josh just threw me out of the game. So I got ejected from mouthing off to Flip, and Flip mouthing off to me.
But did you ever revisit that conversation with Flip Saunders?
Oh, the next time we played them, we had a good laugh. We had a good
okay.
chuckle.
Right.
We had a good chuckle about it.
Did you feel inferior as a team when you were in LA with the Clippers? Like, does the team sense that, or the coverage there with everybody, talking about the Lakers? How does it feel to be a Clipper in LA?
Well, the Lakers sucked when I was there, so we didn't feel inferior as a team. We certainly felt like the bastard stepchild.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we're in at the time Staples Center, and we're the third tenant, so we get the third priority. We don't even get better priority than the Kings. The hockey team gets better games than us. Had to play a lot of 1:00 Saturday afternoon games for Clippers Nation.
but the coverage is still LA, even
Well,
if you're better than LA.
We were at the time we were one of the sort of the buzzworthy teams, and then some by our own doing, we became sort of a meme stock in some ways, where because of some playoff failures and some internal turmoil, we got talked about a ton. It didn't feel like we got less coverage when I was there, but I think that's always going to be there. You know, I live in New York now. I live in Brooklyn, and like you go to a Knicks game and it's a much different experience than going to a Nets game. You know, there's decades and decades of fandom embedded into the Lakers, and there's decades and decades of fandom embedded into the Knicks. And so I think it's really, really hard to overcome that.
We're talking to JJ Redick, joining us on behalf of DraftKings Sportsbook, offering additional promotions, including new customers who bet $5 get $150 in bonus bets instantly. I was wondering about the in-season tournament, and did these teams embrace the in-season tournament more than maybe other teams? Like, is there a sense of this is maybe more important to certain teams than it is others? Or am I overstating something there?
No, I would say that that's an overstatement to some degree. I do think, in my observation, towards the end of the group play, the teams that were 0-3 probably didn't care as much about the fourth game. I said this leading up to that first weekend, that first Friday. I called the Knicks at Bucks, which was the first in-season tournament game in NBA history. And I said, look, you're talking about highly competitive, highly psychotic NBA players. You don't need to give them a reason to wake up in the morning to compete for something. This is how the majority of them are wired. And I thought the level of play in the group play was outstanding. I don't think you could have asked for a better night if you're the NBA than what we saw last night, with Indianapolis just rocking. They've got the best in-season tournament court. They had the best in-season tournament jerseys. They've got a rising superstar in Tyrese Halliburton, who on his very first TNT nationally televised game goes for a triple-double, hits that 4-point play. That Aaron Nesmith dunk at the end of the game, where you see the players on the court celebrating, you see the fans, you see Halliburton screaming like out of joy. Like, that's what the NBA wanted with this in-season tournament. And so as good as November was, as good as the group play was, I thought it was outstanding. This week is going to be even better, because you've got these quarterfinal games at home where it's a playoff atmosphere. And then we go to Vegas, which is an event unto itself, where guys are playing for something. So kudos to Adam Silver for trying it. I'm sure there will be tweaks in the future, but you can't say that this wasn't a success for the first in-season tournament.
If I said to you, do your senior thesis at Duke on the Joker and explain how he does what he does, to a non-basketball fan.
Yeah, I would. It's a great question. I would 100%, and Joker would never agree to do this, but I would 100% find a clinical psychiatrist, a clinical psychologist. I would get with a neuropsychologist. Like I would put some sort of electrodes on his brain. I would figure out a way to do that, because for me, when I watch him play, his processing speed is a little bit faster than everyone else on the court. The way he anticipates how a defense is going to rotate, the way he anticipates coverages, how he sees things. I mean, think about how many blind alley-oop passes he throws to Aaron Gordon. How many blind alley-oop passes, if Aaron Gordon is covered, he somehow anticipates when that alley-oop, when Aaron Gordon's at the dunker spot, when he's covered, skips it to the corner, KCP gets a wide open three. Like his ability to just see the whole floor faster than everyone else is really what makes him so special. And I mean, he's huge. Like he can sit there and tip the ball at the rim when he's missing bunnies and grab 3 offensive rebounds without ever leaving the floor.
But I don't know if he cares about greatness. I don't know if he cares about legacy. It feels like this is my job. I go to my job and I do my job really well. But it wouldn't surprise me if, like in 3 or 4 years, he just walks away and says, I'm going home.
You know, I have a couple thoughts on that. If you talk to anyone in the Denver Nuggets organization, I've got a teammate there from Duke who works in their front office. And I know a bunch of people in their front office, coaching staff, his teammates. He's an absolute psychotic competitor. And it leads to the second point, which is I think this is all a bit, Dan.
Oh, okay.
I think he's putting us on. I really do. I really do. The idea
I love that. I love it.
that he goes home for the summer and doesn't touch a basketball, and then the first week of the season averages 30, 12, and 9 on 62% shooting or whatever it was. Like, I'm not buying it. I think it's all a bit.
20 games into the season, trying to figure out, and it's mandatory I ask you about the Lakers, because I thought the offseason additions made them, a balanced team, a deeper team. Well, give me your opinion on the Lakers so far.
Yeah. LeBron obviously playing at an extremely high level. No real surprise there. Don't take it for granted, though, what he's doing in year 21. But for me, I think they just need to shoot the ball better. They haven't shot well. They've got a top 10 defense. I think they're 24th in offense as of today. They're struggling to score in the half court. And I think a lot of that is just them not shooting well. Hachimura has been out for a number of games. He's going to help. They're one of my disappointing teams. Yeah. I have like a list of disappointing teams, and then I have a list of weird teams. They don't quite qualify for weird yet, but they're in my list of disappointing. I thought they were going to be much better to start the year, and they're just not there yet. But they're a good basketball team.
All right, I'll leave you with this, and I wanted to ask you this question. I've asked this a couple of times on the show. If I give you, it's a different take on the Jordan-LeBron argument. If I said I'm going to give you LeBron for at least 20 years, or I'm going to give you Michael at 13 years. So you're going to be an owner.
Yeah.
You get LeBron's body of work, you get it for 20, you get Mike's for 13. What would you sign up for? Knowing what the results are so far, obviously with Mike, and LeBron is still playing.
Well, it's an interesting way to frame the question and try to trap me into saying who I think is the GOAT. But, I since I've gotten into this role, LeBron James is the best player I played against. And I would probably say there's 2 or 3 guys, Kobe being one, Steph being another. Of course, I played against Shaq, but that was later in his career. Like Tim Duncan, like I played against some of the top 10 players of all time. Yeah. LeBron's the best player I played against. I tend to go now with the Michael Jordan argument, which is what Michael Jordan said in an interview sometime around 2002 or 2003, which is, I can't compare myself to Bill Russell. I can't compare myself to Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't play against those guys. So there's so many things we need to put into context whenever we make this argument. The 4 and 6 in the finals. Well, LeBron's teams, some of those teams really overachieved. He's playing in the 2015 finals without Kyrie Irving, without Kevin Love. Made that a competitive series, right? That 2017 was awful.
Yes, it was.
LeBron dragged that team to the finals, right? Michael Jordan 6-0. You can't argue with that. Michael Jordan also played in his prime during an era of rapid expansion in the NBA. Was the level of competition during expansion as high as it was, let's say, in 2015 to 2018? LeBron lost twice to KD and the Warriors, who I think I would put that team up against any team of all time. One of the greatest teams of all time. I'm not saying they're the greatest. One of the greatest. I'd put them up against anybody. So I think the context matters in all this. To me, they're the 2 greatest players ever. And I don't care which one you like. We're all biased to some degree about who we like more.
Well, Michael's a better player, though. But I would take LeBron's longevity. I would take 20 years.
I think there's some arguments, Dan, around who was the best basketball player of all time. right? Who was the best basketball player of all time versus who had the best basketball career of all time?
Absolutely.
There's some arguments around that.
Yes. Mike's the best
And
player.
that's sort of where the question you asked is framed. That sort of argument.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to trick you because
No, I know.
you went to
I was only kidding.
Duke. I can't trick you.
I was only kidding.
Okay. All right. Good to talk to you.
Always good to see
keep
you,
stirring
Dan.
it up. How's the jumper, by the way?
It's pretty solid actually. I'm coaching my third grader and helping out with my first graders team, but really full time 4 days a week with my third grader. He plays on a fourth grade travel team. And yesterday we were doing shell drill, and to help the kids understand better, we normally do it 4-on-4. I've got the ball at the top of the key. They get into their shifts. They interchange on the weak side. I make sure they're in help side, all that stuff. Yesterday, to make it easier for them to understand, I put a fifth defender on me. And, just so they could kind of visualize it a little bit better. And I couldn't help myself. I made this poor kid fall twice and laid it in the basket. And I felt.
Wait. You're breaking
split
fourth grade
second.
ankles?
Yeah, for a split second, I felt really good about myself. And then I was like, what are you doing, man?
That's what your wife says. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
All right.
That's
See you guys.
JJ Redick, former NBA guard, shooter, joining us on behalf of DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's